I don't know whether it's work. Hello, Nick, and everybody. Okay, I'm going to assume. Hello, Anna. Good to see you. I'm going to assume that that all functioning okay. Hello, Trace. Very nice. What a nice name that is. Okay, so what we normally find on these lives is that there's like 30 seconds of me sitting here blankly staring at nothing. Hopefully we'll avoid that today. We'll just plow on in. So welcome. Right, it's going to be an interesting one today, I think. Oh, full Monty, gosh, you're in at the start. Good to see you, Boykin. David, hello, David. Good to see you. Hey up, lad. It's likely that today you're probably going to have quite a lot of chit chat amongst yourselves. Some of these questions that I've got lined up from people are very much asking you guys to share how you do things as well. So, Brad, hello, good to see you. So if you want to direct a specific question to me, let's try and get in the habit of doing a @TimWalter. Let's see how that goes. Otherwise, just put it in caps or something like that. But then it's a lot easier for me to see it if it's like that. But, you know, whatever. Let's see how it goes. Nancy, hello. Good to see you. Now then, so Dowsing pendulum, the mindfulness, meditation, and healing connection. It's funny, isn't it? You know, because the simple little thing, I guess that most of you are using a pendulum on and off, maybe. Billy, good to see you. Good. And I mean, I guess that most of you are using dowsing and dowsing rods somewhere along the line. Oh, you got the same one, Voika. Excellent. Do you know what? I don't even know what. I don't know whether that's going to focus on there, will it? No. I don't even know what stone that is, to be honest with you. It's got a bit of a sheen to it, so I think it's a bit like this, which is there's some sort of like that. It's got that kind of same sheen to it, which I rather like. So anyway, if anybody can let me know what that stone is, that'd be brilliant. So let's get on with it. Come on. Now then, the big thing here is that we want to talk about healing. This is what was very much voiced last time. Hello, Memory Bubble. Good to see you. Glad you made it. People wanted to ask questions about the healing, and really, I suppose the whole channel really is about moving people to being more aware of the possibility for healing and working on that kind of subtle energy to bring about improved well-being. BB Boo, that's an interesting one. Hello there. Stevie, good to see you. Louise, good to see you. So I think that what I'm going to have to do is I mean, obviously we play this by ear, but what I'm going to have to do is to talk in general terms about healing, because it's very difficult for me in the way that I work, particularly when I'm doing the house healing, and the way that I work with my mentoring clients, is that we look at the very individual nature of our connection to the management upstairs, and that varies, as you would expect, with each and every one of us. So yeah, my computer's playing up actually at the moment, Billy. I've got massive delay on here, so I'm not quite sure what's going on. Okay, Bibby Boo. I mean, it might be that we can help you move for that, but if you look at some of the other videos on the channel as well, you know, you're going to see more about how to actually use those rods and get them working for you. Maybe what we're going to be talking more about today, Nathan, good to see you, is more about the healing aspect. So working with the energy that the dowsing enables us to kind of tune into and connect with. So Bibby, stick with it, but have a look around some of the other videos as well on the channel. So what I'm getting at is, my feeling is, as we start this hour or so, is that we're going to be talking in very general terms about healing. But let's go and see where we end up. So I've got several questions that people such as Lena, Lady K, I don't know if Lady K is going to join us a bit later perhaps, Lawrence and Nathan also have sent in. And got quite a complex number of questions from Carol as well, and she's one of the regulars, so hopefully she'll be joining us later. But let's just go over a little bit about, when we talk about healing and remote healing, do we all think that we're talking about the same sort of thing? Because very, very clearly what I'm about is about doing remote healing. So it's about influencing the subtle energies via the management to bring about improved well-being for people. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about in terms of healing. I'm not talking about taking drugs of any kind, or really even in today's session about homeopathy or anything like that, or indeed practices such as acupuncture. So yeah, thanks, Billy. So we're talking literally about using the subtle energies of the management upstairs to affect a change. Now, there's two ways I can take this, right? Straight off. We always have to look at it from a human point of view, because otherwise we can't communicate information succinctly or even anywhere near getting a point across. And so we're saying, right, healing, we can affect a change. We can help people, we can help ourselves by using this connection to the management. And we use primarily dowsing. Excellent, that's probably a good one there then, Monty. So we can connect and improve the well-being for somebody else or for ourselves. But the underlying thing, and this is what I really want you to think about and take away at the end of this time, however long you stick with us on this session, is that we are never actually out of touch with the management. And that's a very fundamental standpoint from which to function. Now, I know some of you regulars will be completely across that and get that, and you'll be like, well, come on, get on with it, you know. But actually, to remember and to try to live in every circumstance. I mean, again, I say this for myself because I easily forget. You know, we do forget, we are human, but we are never out of touch with the management. So all the healing work that we try to do, all house healing or any kind of remote healing, is actually to improve that connection, to establish that connection with a greater foundation for perhaps a focused period of time. That's the way to look at it. Is it's not a case of making a connection, of doing the healing. It's about, okay, let's go into that space and open that space up and really focus. What do I know about the techniques for focusing these energies, asking upstairs, and to focus them for the greatest possible effect? Does that make a bit of sense? Hello, Marjorie, good to see you. So I suppose what I'm saying is we've got the human way of looking at this whole process, which is very much about saying, right, okay, we're going to do some healing. But the real way of our true selves as spiritual beings here in this dimension is that we're constantly connected, and all we're trying to do is to use our logic and our intuition to really harness that connection. So let's just go dive in with a couple of questions. These first couple of questions, because I want to cap them off before we go on and take questions. Hello, Andrew, good to see you. From Bournemouth, wonderful. I went to college in Bournemouth Film School. So these sort of reflect back a little bit to last week, and I want to just cover them off before we go on and take questions from the floor. Yeah, exactly. Billy, good. So this is a quick question from Lena. Now this is in reference to what we were talking about last time about working with Ouija boards and guardian angels. And she says, well, you said that often people have been to the light and chosen to come back as guardian angels. Can you talk some more about this? Well, I mean, in a way it is connected to the healing, because obviously the guardian angels, we work with guardian angels as our own spirit guides and the guardian energies of sight. I think Lena's slightly misunderstood there. What I was talking about specifically was about the guardian energy spirit in our particular house, where that she had chosen She'd gone to the light, she'd come back again, specifically in this role of guardian. Now, I take from that, and certainly what Jane, the guardian energy in the house, said at that time, was that, others can do that too. The real crux of that question for Lena really is really to grasp that reincarnation, the repetition of lives, the repeating process of spirit of creation. And our choice within that process is, as far as I'm concerned, absolutely 100% what happens. And that really was the essence of Hamish's, my dear mentor Hamish's near-death experience, was that was one of the big takeaways that he had, was that absolutely you just continue to go around in cycles if you wish to, if you've accomplished what you need to. Lindsay, good to see you. Thank you. If you've accomplished all that you need to. Okay, so question here from Lady K, difference between scrying and pendulum dowsing. Well, scrying is about perceiving, perhaps using like a mirror or a crystal ball, or a rather lovely one actually is a pail of water, believe it or not, on a moonlit night. If you actually sit in the dark and look at that, the reflection of the moon in the water, that is a brilliant way to do some scrying. Now, it's very much a term that is about the kind of Wiccan way of working with subtle energy, and that's not really what we're about necessarily, but the essence of what Lady K is talking about is she's asking the question, what's the difference between that and the way that I describe pendulum dowsing, when it's almost like a remote viewing process? And I think my experience of scrying is very limited, but the feeling is still one in which we do dive into the subtle realms and pick up information. Scrying itself will tend to give you visions as appropriate, whereas pendulum dowsing is what I would consider to be safer, in as much as it's more focused, and focus is always the way. Hello, Summer, nice to see you. But scrying in itself will open up, if you allow it, it will open up the same sort of channels as you can open up with pendulum dowsing. Now, what I would say is that I always feel that using a little old pendulum and using that to focus in and to focus one's mind. I mean, it's interesting actually that it was a completely involuntary movement to here, which is really the position of the third eye when we look inside in the pineal gland in the brain. And many people consider that the pineal gland is what allows the access of information in the intuitive sense, in the other dimensions. But I think I always feel, the feeling that I get when I use a pendulum is that I am far more in control and have far more ability to influence the focus of the mind, because dowsing is a constant flip between the intuitive and the logical. Whereas scrying, you're kind of just allowing stuff to flow to you. And if you've ever worked with a good old vintage crystal ball, then you feel as though you're being sucked into that, and it's quite an unnerving experience. And the essence of that is that it's been charged effectively with the energy that wishes to work with you in that sense. So this is why dowsing to me is extremely safe. But of course, within the dowsing lies the problem that we are working with our logic and our intuition at the same time. And it's always a question of a good dowser, an expert dowser, whatever you want to call it, is trying to reduce the influence of the logical side of your mind, of your personality, on the result, because what we want is a similar result that we can get free flowing, if you like, from scrying, but we're doing it in a more structured way, and we're allowing our intuition to be within the framework. Does that make sense? Yes, we are, Andrew, that's right. We are opening up new pathways in the brain. Hello, Sally. Oh, good for you. Well done. Yes, I mean, like everything, Andrew, it's like we're exercising a muscle. It's not a muscle, of course, but as soon as you start to put together new neural patterns within the brain, and they get, you know, the neural pathways become more fluid because that's the way the brain works. It allows and it gives preference to those neural pathways that are used more. Okay. Good. Okay, so right, let's get on to specifics about the healing. Those were kind of relating to it a little bit, but so Nathan. No, sorry, I've missed one there. I've missed one from Lawrence. I'm not sure whether Lawrence has joined us yet. He might not be able to make it today. Lawrence says, I want to begin a healing process for a dear friend of mine who is a hypochondriac. Very sensitive field for sure. Can you talk about this? And have you had any experience of this type of disorder? Well, hypochondria, I mean, that really is about, I mean, no, I haven't, is the short answer. Not direct experience working with hypochondriacs, but it's about the essence of fear. And a lot of experience of working with a lot of people that are very fear driven and have got a lot of fear in their lives, to varying ways that is manifested. So now please bear in mind in all of this stuff, when we've got specific questions about healing, you know, I am not a qualified physiotherapist, silly twit. I'm not a qualified psychotherapist or any qualified medical practitioner. And if we're dealing with serious mental issues like bipolar or severe hypochondria, for example, where the person might be suffering from even to the extent of becoming agoraphobic, so not even daring to go out of the house, for example, then these are issues that really, yes, as healers and as people that, I mean, healers as in human beings, we'll talk about this in a second, we can do what we can, but I would always recommend, and some of you are going to go, I would always recommend that if the person that you're sending healing to is actually suffering quite severe influences that are detrimental and really debilitating in their life, then they should go to see somebody that is trained in working with mental disorders, right? I mean, we're here, I've said this before, I said this last time, I think, we're here in the 21st century. And even though we are encouraging the use of intuition and the use of healing subtle energies, part of the 21st century is the ability to contact people that are trained medical professionals. And that is there for us. We should be, yeah, it is. We should not dismiss these modern and appropriate methodologies. Okay, but we're not kind of getting into that today. So that's just my little rider on all of this, is that none of us are really, unless you particularly are trained psychotherapist. So what does Lawrence do in this instance? The real thing to do here in this sort of circumstance, where he's got a friend who's a hypochondriac, and Lawrence wants to help, is really to sit in meditation. I mean, and send supporting, loving energy to that person, and be as broad and as woolly as that, because you connect to upstairs. So you're always going to meditate. Lawrence, I know you're a practiced meditator. So you sit in meditation and you simply ask upstairs and you can do it to the extent of you send white light. You ask them to send the white light, and it can either come down through you and you may feel it, but you will probably see it as a process in the mind's eye, and then direct it. So you focus on the person that you want to send that healing, loving energy to, and you expect that the management is doing the job. Big pointer, you don't ever use your own energy. So you don't start, if you ever feel that you're starting sending something from here, stop, right? Because you don't ever do that. It's got to be a process where you're bringing something down. You feel or you perceive that the starting point of the energy is from upstairs. It's from the management. It's from outside of you. And it will come down. And ideally, it comes down directly through your crown chakra and comes through. And if it comes through you like this, then you could send it out through your heart. That's fine. Or it may leave at any point. It may just sort of come to you and then filter out through. Or it may not even come down through you. It can go straight from some other point, and you might see it, or you might be aware of it going to the person that you're thinking of. But what I'm saying is you do not want to use your own energy, because that will deplete your own energy. Okay, that's just the word of warning. Exactly, source being the key word. Hello, Alison, good to see you. So excellent. Good. Probably mindfulness there, memory bubble too, I guess, as part of that meditation. So Lawrence, really just ask the management to send support, loving support, to your friend, okay? And just keep an eye on how they are, and don't necessarily expect change to be sudden and dramatic and like a miracle. Oh, Nombe, good to see you. What you're looking for is signs of change, and it's not necessarily going to be a change instantly that is beneficial. If something changes in this person's life and it is a little bit less positive, then keep sending the loving energy. Keep asking upstairs to send the loving energy, because no change is comfortable, but you just keep an eye on what is happening to the person, and you ask upstairs to adjust it accordingly. And you ask, and you can dowse, and this is where the dowsing pendulum comes into the whole process, is that you can literally have that conversation and ask and explain and say, well, this is what is happening to my friend, and can you confirm that this is appropriate and the best possible process for him right now? So you're entering into that conversation as part of your healing process for your friend, right? Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely, Billy. You've got to, yeah. I mean, you see, this is the thing. If you're incredibly empathic, which a lot of highly sensitive people are, that's part of their sensitivity, then you will be instantly connecting to everybody that you meet. And if somebody is in need, then you will instantly, as you say, actually subconsciously just send them your own healing energy. And this is, again, we said earlier on about the fact that we're always connected to upstairs, and our life is, we're part of the management in that sense. If you think about the connection between a mother and child, if that child as a toddler falls over, scrapes the knee, the classic example, then the healing energy of the mother, what does the mother do? The mother will grab the child and express her love for that child. Now that's a healing, just in that instant response. And of course, expressing love for each other is a healing process. It's a very positive and beneficial process. So never forget. Hi Dixie, good to see you. Never forget that even these small little occasions day to day, this is what I'm saying about we don't necessarily just jump into the healing mode. We are healing, or have the ability to heal, all the time throughout the course of a day. So just be prepared. The old protection thing, a lot of you will have seen the chakra protection exercise. We do try to stress using that. Right, let's move on to Nathan. Nathan had a few questions. Nathan has also been busy building a little mini dolmen, standing stone. Well, in fact, a sort of triptych of standing stones, small ones in his garden, which is great. That's nice. I love it when people kind of catch on to the way that stones, big stones, can be used in the ways, we replicate the ways that the ancients would have worked with them when they built their sacred sites. And Nathan, really, by building his little dolmen, now he might have done it as a bit of a joke. It looks great, the photos that he sent through. Not, I don't mean a joke in a kind of like, but just as a light-hearted thing or something nice to do. But you see, that in itself will have created a lovely feeling, and it will encourage elementals, apart from anything else, into that particular space. And that's a very appropriate thing for Nathan. Anyway, his question. He says he uses a quartz pendulum over a problem area. Oh no, he says, I use the quartz pendulum over the problem area in people or animals. What he says he does is he uses a pendulum, basically swinging in all different ways. He's obviously focusing on a house, for example, maybe clearing a house. And his pendulum is there doing that. He's done all his protection and stuff. And when the house is cleared, basically that will stop moving, right? So he's interested to hear about other people's way of working in that sense. In other words, do you do similar? But also, I've got a point about this. There are 2 points actually with this. Nathan says that I use the quartz pendulum over a problem area in people and animals. Well, I think that's what he's saying anyway. Now, obviously, with some of the videos that I've made before about the geopathic stress, you see me work the floor plan, and I've got the pendulum, and it's doing its thing. That in itself, that practice of working with the floor plan, with the pendulum, dowsing, I'm gathering information. That in itself is not the healing phase of the house healing work that I do. That is gathering information. I will sit in meditation at a separate time with the completed floor plan, with the completed report, and then sit in meditation and ask for the healing to be done at that stage. So just wanted to make it clear for hello Sally, for Nathan there. So the work that I do is broken into these 2 very distinct parts: dowsing to collect information, healing as a separate aspect. Also, I use the intuitive connection, or all the dowsing, to have that conversation with upstairs about what's going on and is it enough and all the rest of it. So when you say that you connect to a house, and hello Hassan, and you have a pendulum that's doing all sorts of things, that's quite similar to what I do when I'm sitting in meditation, because I will often sit with a pendulum and go through the section headings, and I expect to get a positive response from the pendulum as I'm going through those and asking upstairs to do some work. Okay, and I think that this is related to the way that shamans work a lot. Okay, because what we're doing in all of this work is pulling information through from a dimension that is next to ours. Again, a lot of you have heard me talk about it like this, and pulling it through into our dimension. And to do that, we need energy. Now, obviously, we've got electrons flying around in our brains all the time. That's energy in itself. And we've spoken in the past about the electric universe and the way that we're electric beings. So there's an energy process going on within our physiology all the time, which is enabling a connection anyway. But if we then take into account that even just a tiny pendulum whizzing around like this is producing energy. This is influent. This is, there's a, what do you call that? I can't remember. Kinetic energy. Is that kinetic energy movement? So Keith, hello there. That's Nathan. So that is kind of adding to the energy of you occupying that space as part of that connection to the management and influencing the the target person, right? So that process. When I say influencing, I reiterate that everything, all the healing work, every aspect of all of this work is always done in alignment with divine will and for the highest of the high. None of this work is done for personal gain. It is always done from that point of love and from the highest of the high, which means that the management is in charge, the management is in control, the management knows what's going on. What we are doing is acting as that kind of pivot point and that point of awareness as part of the consciousness that is assisting another part of consciousness. We act as that observer and as that information transmuter. We transform energy. We transform that energy of love through us as we sit with the intention of focusing and improving the well-being of somebody else, of a fellow human being, which is simply another aspect of consciousness. Do all houses have energy centers and infinity symbol like the stone circle documentary, or is it each room? You've actually got both. Excellent. You ordered some dowsing rods. Brilliant. Houses will, what you're doing, there's another video, I don't know whether you've seen it, Lindsay, which is about about asking to be shown the most powerful, most beneficial earth energy center in your house. That's the one that I recommend you go and look for as a power center. You will find a power center in each room. I mean, there's another video on the channel which talks about the way that actually we live in a sea of earth energy. So think about it as being us hello Lyndon, good, that we live in this sea of energy, and what we're really doing is we're focusing in on the most beneficial aspect for us when we look for the most beneficial and most powerful power center in the house. But you will find them all over. Okay. Does that answer your question? I'm not sure. Kind of got myself lost a little bit. I thought I was going to be nice and relaxed today, but I'm not, am I? I'm still a bit all over the place. Okay, yeah, good. Have a. They're quite old, some of those, but if you look at the videos in terms of most popular, then the main power center video is one of the most popular on the channel, right? So you'll find it easy. Okay. Thanks. No, I just feel like I wanted to be calm, and I don't really feel very calm, but that's okay. Right. So Carol, I don't think Carol's with us. I think she's probably got called away. She does a lot of on-call work, and she did say that she might not be able to make it this afternoon. So she's got a few questions. Now, I'm going to have to read this, okay, but there is, yeah, okay, so this actually is a question where Carol is asking about what experience you've had as well, so have a listen to this. So what she says is, it's kind of like text speak, so bear with us. All right, she says, when scanning the body before a healing, you see what she calls a hotspot, you do all the necessary protection, etc., and permissions. You do the work on the person, and on the last little part of the clearing, you receive information from upstairs on why that has to stay. So a particular aspect that was maybe a little bit detrimental, but upstairs is saying, no, that's got to stay. You don't take that bit out. But your client says, remove it all. So Carol's asking, what would be my advice on that? And what would you think? What have you done if you've come across a similar circumstance? So I'll plow in here, and what I would do is I would simply, I would do what the management say. I would try to find out why the management suggests that this little aspect, for the time being perhaps, has to stay. Because, like I said, they've got the bigger picture, and they might not, if you're working closely with your guide and you're hearing your guide talking you through your healing practice and process, or working with you as you're doing it, then your guide might not necessarily have the entire picture, but they will certainly have a bigger picture and a more appropriate overview of what is beneficial for the person that you're working with. So I would ask the management and say, try and find out why is it important to stay, and is it necessary to stay, you know, for weeks or months, or should it always be there, this aspect of whatever it is? Just try and find out as much information as you can about it, and talk to your client about it. Tell your client what the information is that you're picking up and you're receiving. Bear in mind that, you know, none of this, and dowsing itself is not foolproof. You know, we're not dealing with science here. We're not dealing with mathematics. We're not dealing with a precise answer. We are working with intuition, and we're working on things that are wave-like. You know, there are degrees of information, degrees of exchange that need to be assessed. It's not digital. It's not either one thing or the other. So part of the way that I work with dowsing and with intuition, with my guides, is not terribly clear cut. There's quite a lot of humming and hawing and trying to figure out what on earth is going on. And that's fine. I think that that's absolutely fine. None of us are pretending to be something that we're not. You know, this is not magic. This is not exceptional. This is healing that is everybody is capable of doing and working with. And that's really important, that we actually enable our clients to understand that it's a very natural process. It's not anything incredibly woo-woo, but, you know, yeah, that's good. So that's the answer that I'd give to Carol on her first one. Excellent. That's great. Well done, Lucy. That's a nice one. Nice to get that. That's really nice. Okay, so this is an interesting one from Carol. Specific question again. So I'm going to have to read it again. So sorry, you're looking down my right ear. So she was invited to a hotel and asked by owners to clear in and around the hotel before they put the rooms up on booking.com. Before actually seeing the hotel, Carol received messages from upstairs saying welcome. And on the initial energy viewing, everything looked fine. When she was there, she noticed huge rocks. Red jasper was one of them. And then there was huge dragons, or maybe she means they were dragons on a water feature made of red jasper, perhaps. She was okay to enter the hotel. Inside was like, WTF, she's put, excuse, please. Crystal chandeliers, crystals placed in odd places. Note to self, some places they are there for a reason. And not all of those crystals that the hotel owner, for example, has put need to be cleared away. But has anyone else encountered this when they've been asked to check and clear a property, or a house, for example, that you might be asked to clear a house, and you think, okay, well, that's fine. And you go into the house. I know some of you actually like to go into these places. I tend to prefer to work remotely. And you find that the whole house is covered in crystals already. So if any of you have had experience of that, just pop it down in the comments section. But Carol was kind of asking, well, what would I do? I suppose she's asking, what would I do in that circumstance? And well, if I was on site, I would be asking upstairs. I'd be dowsing each of the crystals that I could see, whether they were appropriate. You see, working from a floor plan, in a way, it's easier, because not only are you not immersed right there and then in the energy of the place, but you see, with a hotel, with a hotel, you're working with a lot of different energy. you know, if it's a popular hotel, then you've got people coming in and out of that place, and depends on what type of hotel it is too, of course. But let's assume it's a decent high class establishment, but you've got people coming in and out of that place all the time, and they are all leaving their emotional baggage within those rooms. So it's a massive amount of energy. So for somebody that's not experienced in clearing, and I think Carol's quite experienced, she's very tuned in, but it's a massive amount of work, and I wouldn't recommend, to be honest, to a beginner to actually try to deal with a hotel. I would suggest that you do it with you get several of you together and maybe do it, but I would say do it remotely as well. For the very reason that if you walk in and you see all of these crystals and stuff, some of them are going to be doing good things. Some of them are going to be causing chaos, probably. If the owner has asked you to clear it, there's going to be a reason why. And it may well be that they've just gone in and bunged these things willy-nilly. And actually what it's doing is creating a very complex and confusing energy pattern within the hotel. So they may have been very well-meaning. The hotel owner may have been very well-meaning, but by just putting all of these things in without knowing what they're doing, and without knowing what they're doing, they've actually made things worse for themselves, perhaps. It's a good point, Alison. That's one of the questions to ask, isn't it? Really, you know, are those crystals that are in that hotel, were they being recharged and cleansed? And what do we think about cleansing of crystals? Yeah. Yeah, okay, that's fine, Lyndon. That's fine. The rod, see, that's great, isn't it? You get a good. That's great. You just go with what is working for you, and what will happen actually is that your pendulum work will develop with you as you develop, and you'll find that you actually will step away from the solid base for your dowsing, and you will get more consistent results as you develop and as you practice. So let's just go back to crystals. If you're using crystals, or actually sometimes, it's one of the things that I've never mentioned, I don't think, with a pendulum. Sometimes people, some people call stone crystal. So is that a crystal? Probably in that category. You get the very, very obvious crystal. You get like rose quartz. And so you could have a rose quartz pendulum, for example. Now, crystals, you want to be really clear in your treatment of your pendulum if you are using a crystal pendulum. What I mean by that is you want to treat it not only as a friend, but you also want to clear it regularly, because the memory of a crystal, it will pick stuff up and it will give you contradictory results. And that may be, Lyndon, I don't know what your pendulum was made of, but that may be one of the issues that you're having there. So a sort of a pendulum which is less kind of offensive or less likely to pick stuff up, as just a basic solid metal one, for example. I know that's out of focus, but don't worry about it. That is actually one that was sold by the British Society of Dowsers. It's quite a nice weight. And the other thing about a pendulum like that is, for a beginner, it's a very clear point to it, and there are different ways of using it. I'm going to do a video. I've started doing a video about map dowsing, and I'll show you the benefit of using a pendulum like that in that video. No, I don't, Dixie. Some people do, like Adrian. I think you've been talking to Adrian a bit on Facebook and stuff. Adrian Ingleton-Weber. He carries a little pendulum with him all the time. I actually, it's not a metaphysical reason at all why I don't. It's simply that I don't like having stuff in my pockets. I just don't like having stuff in my pockets. I don't even take a phone. Okay, so if I'm going out to do some metaphysical work, some spiritual work, or whatever you want to call it, some dowsing work, then obviously I'll take it with me. But otherwise, no, I don't take it. Okay, so there's a third question here. Yeah, you can do that, Lindsay. You can put them out overnight and clear them. Pocket says, hello, Marjorie. You can put a crystal pendulum out overnight. I used to do this a lot with crystals that I had in the old house, was just to pop them in some salt and leave them out overnight. But again, you know, it's the intention, it's the action of what you're doing with it, and really just holding it and asking upstairs to cleanse it and allow it to be free flowing and working with you is as good as leaving it out for 12 hours overnight, especially these days with the way the energies are whizzing around. Okay, so Carol's third question. Absolutely, each to their own. Yeah, definitely. That is the whole point of all of this stuff, is that each person should go with their own process. You know, none of this is about saying there's a right or a wrong. And one of the big questions, actually I meant to touch on it earlier on, one of the big questions is, am I doing this right? When it comes to healing work, am I doing this right? Well, actually, we are born into this world and we therefore fit into this world. We're designed to be in this world. And one of the things we're designed for is to be emanating the healing mentality. So as soon as you think of somebody, you're connecting to them. As soon as you think positively about them, you're connecting to them. You're actually enhancing them. It's rather like stroking a dog with love. Okay, so, and likewise, this is why gossip and idle talk, in that sense of being derogatory, is a really unpleasant space to be in, because as soon as you start to say, oh, do you hear about so-and-so from number 13 or number 12, they did such and such, you're actually in this kind of, you know, your vibration goes right down here. And that's the opposite to healing. You're actually being derogatory about them. And in turn, that energy is the energy that you are in. So you do, as we all try to raise our vibration and improve and assist other people, we're actually assisting ourselves as well at the same time, because there is no doubt that as long as you're pulling the energy through, right, from somewhere else, from the management through, there's no doubt that we benefit as well from the side effects of that positive energy. And as I said before, life is a continually moving, hello Kimberly, good to see you, a continually progressing state of learning and development. So I'm going to get to Carol's third question any second now. So what Carol says, has anyone there, that's great, Andrew, yeah, well done, but that's okay, that's fine, I'm sure it all went all kind of relaxed again. So has anyone there, if you do comment if this rings a bell with you, this is a comment from Carol, has anyone done Reiki dowsing, done use dowsing to do some Reiki work on somebody, and you've suddenly been inundated with a whole load of symbols, and you dig deeper and you find that you're working above the 12th chakra, for example, she says. So that's obviously something that's happened to Carol, and she, for some reason, she's now saying it led her to a crystal shop and she bought 22 crystals that her L rods chose for her, which is great. And she's now trying to work with those crystals and the pendulum. I'm not quite sure what she's getting at. We finally got to that third question and I hadn't read it through before I started reading it. So I'm not really quite sure what Carol was getting at. If Carol picks this up on playback, maybe she can clarify, because I'm not quite sure what she's getting at there. But really, clearly what she's saying is, as you do healing on people, you can come up against stuff that you're pretty surprised by. And I think that happens all the time. You know, if you get into the habit of doing a lot of healing with a lot of different people, then, well, rather like Andrew says here, you know, his sister's chakras were way, right, you know, boosted. The more you work with other people and the more you experience different scenarios that you're asking the management to help with, then clearly the more experience you're getting and the more things, you can still be surprised by things. I'm still constantly surprised by stuff. Yeah, well, it may not. Right. Okay, got you, Lindsay. Yeah. It sounds more like it sounds more like you were going through a bit of a spiritual boost or something there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yeah. So it can get a bit kind of so trippy. If you haven't seen it, it's another video for you. If you go back a couple of lives ago, a couple of weeks ago, then there's one there about grounding, the importance of grounding, and the dangers of venturing too close to sort of a psychosis. Okay, just might be worth you having a quick look at that, but you'll be fine. You've obviously moved on from that. Okay. Any specific questions from the floor, from the group? We've kind of, as usual, wandered all over the subject, and I hope it's sort of felt a little bit useful for you. I think that the key thing, there's a lot of talk of portals, and I'm not sure whether we've covered this on a live in the past few weeks or not, but a lot of talk of portals. There's a lot of fear, actually, about people. A healer came to me and said, "There's a portal in my office or a portal in my kitchen." Well, we are portals ourselves, right? So don't be surprised that you'll hear more and more reference to portals and doorways and this sort of stuff, because that's what we are. We're an informational gateway. We change from one dimension to the other. That's what we do. That's our role. And as more and more of us are waking up and doing that role, then the more you'll hear discussion about things like portals. But for those people that are less kind of comfortable with the concept of some of this stuff, then it can get a little bit like, well, either some people think it's like exciting and really makes them special. I'm now judging, of course, but it's not. It's about just being prepared and understanding and not freaking out if some odd things happen. Oh, bless. Okay. So have you also been to see a cranial osteopath? Memory bubble. Yes, well, yes, they can be, Nathan. Mirrors can be. Well, Marjorie, just ask around. Ask around the energy of the tour. Let's call it a tour for the time being. Simply ask, Dowse. Ask if you dowse and you connect to your higher self, if that's what you perceive that you are connecting to, ask your higher self about whether you may ask the questions of the guardian of the site of the tour, right? So you dowse and you ask, and if it says yes, of course, go ahead. Then ask, you ask, may I speak with you? You're focused on the guardian of the tour, and you ask, may I speak to the guardian of this space of the tour? If you can see it, then all the better. And you dowse for it, either with the rods or the pendulum. And then you simply ask, because the guardian is likely to say yes, by all means, And then you simply ask whatever it is you want to ask, whatever you want to know. And don't feel foolish in asking questions that you think that are dumb questions. These aspects, these personalities in the subtle realms, these spirit of place personalities, are used to, from the olden times, used to us asking questions. And actually they would encourage it because it enhances our connection to the land and to nature. So that's the thing. That's okay. So that's just fire energy, Marjorie. That's great. That's great. I expect it would have been used as a sacred site some years ago. Billy. Okay, so what you're saying, yeah, okay. It can, I mean, it can be, Billy. It can be, you can consider it to be. The question really is whether you consider it to be a way that they might make a contact. And therefore, Dowse, ask, are you making contact? You know, ask those questions. See what you get. Good. Well done, Sally. Excellent. Thank you for that. Yeah. So Marjorie, just be prepared. Just be aware that it's historically been treated as a sacred site, and therefore the spirit of place will be used to being regarded as a sacred aspect. So you just need to be very respectful. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Okay, the role rights. Yeah. Okay. So the role rights. Yeah. Great. This is an interesting circle. Hang on, there's another one near. Because I used to work in Chipping Norton, so it's just literally down the road. But there's another one, isn't there? So yeah. So when you go to the role rights, go and look at the heel stone, the big, the keystone. I can't remember what it's called. The big one that's a bit down the lane. The only issue with the role rights is that it is very popular. There's a lot of people who go to it, and there's a lot of people use it for Wiccan work, and a lot of people use it to stuff that they don't know what they're doing, and therefore the energy can be a bit mucky. So Andrew, just do all your protection. And also, you know, what you can do is to actually, when you go there, try to tune into, not necessarily, well, ask the question of the site, right? Ask the question of the stone circle. May I tune into the energy as it was when it was first created? And do that. So you time shift your attention and your dowsing opportunity, your intuitive ability. So you sidestep from the 21st century nowness, because I have to say it's not the best stone circle in the country. And you try and plug into the original intention of the original circle makers. Okay. That's what I suggest. Good. Yes. So we'll all send some healing energy to Memory Bubble's wife. Yes. Okay, Billy. So just explore it a little bit. Just explore it a little bit and see where it takes you. Don't be scared of it, because it's you just take things one step at a time. And because I think, Billy, you were a little bit cautious, weren't you, about all this sort of stuff or something? Is that right? I can't remember. But just take it one step at a time, and you can always back off and just tell it all to go away if you get uncomfortable with it. But keep us in the picture. Excuse me. Yeah, there is. There'll always be a guardian there, Andrew. Absolutely. There'll be a guardian at every sacred site. There always definitely is. I mean, you can find a guardian at every space. You know, every house has one that you can speak to, and every space has one. If you go to woods, you go walking through the woods, you'll find that the particular wood or the area, you know, has a guardian energy that you can speak to of itself, as well as talking to the trees. Non-bear. Great. Yeah. Okay. See how that goes. That's possible. Okay, so any last questions? I think if I just repeat the fact that, you know, we talk about healing, and, you know, I mean, I announce myself, don't I, on each one of the recorded videos. You know, I'm a house healer and an alternative life coach. So we think of it as healing. We dive into this healing mode. Which of course we do, in the sense of we have to allow ourselves in meditation to settle into that different brainwave pattern. But let's not forget, you know, that thing that I was saying right at the start, that we're on this journey. The life is this process of healing and self-development and advancement and understanding, you know, let's not forget that, even in the midst of our chaotic cities, if that's where we live, you know, every interaction that we have is a part of the overall picture. Whether or not we admit to free will and free choice, kind of a subject for a whole hour's worth of question and answer session in the future. But I think that what's really important is that we have the impression that we have free will, that we have free choice, and therefore we want to exercise our right to make choices. And that can include arguing or putting a point across to upstairs through dowsing if we're not happy with our intuitive connection, and arguing a point. And if they insist on a particular point, then understanding why they insist. It's not just about, as we said before, lying on your back with your feet in the air and surrendering. There's a point for surrender, but surrender is done with an understanding. It's not done out of impotency. It's all about your power. Okay, so good to see you, Regina. Nice to see you. Okay. Oh, bless. Okay, so we are drawing to a close now. Then, next week, I'm not going to do a live session next week, so don't turn up at 3:30 BST next week. There won't be anybody here, but we'll pick it up again in 2 weeks' time. Next week, I am intending to basically keep the week aside. I've got to get some video production in the bank, get it so that I can upload some more material. I think some of you may have noticed that I've been a bit lax in the recorded ones. I need to get those done. And I want to get some work done on the online course, and I want to get some more work done on the book. So loads of stuff to be done, as well as a few healing sessions. So Dixie, good man. Brad, great. Oh yeah, the video's been a bit crap today. So we'll see what that's like on playback, Brad. Yeah. Good, Kathy, great. Cheers, Nathan. If anybody is interested in taking up the one-to-one mentoring that I do with people, then obviously just drop me a line. It's a lot easier to talk to individuals about their specific healing process, and that's what I'm doing with a lot of people, as you probably would have gathered. Yeah, all right, Dixie, good man. Okie dokie. So look after yourselves. It's lovely to talk to you, and yeah, just stick with it and enjoy your 2 weeks. Okay, take care then. I'm going to press the buttons now. See you next time. Do leave some questions. Oh, thanks, Regina. That's lovely. Do leave some questions below so that we can pick something up for next week. That's the final thing. All right, take care. Cheers. See ya.